Hi, my name is Wylie Johnson. I've been a member of this church for about 16 years. When I was 7 years old, my family moved from Pueblo, Colorado to Dumas, Texas. And the church that I attended was very much a hellfire and brimstone church. And I remember attending Vacation Bible School that first summer that I lived there. At 7 years old, I don't know that many children can understand the concept of heaven and hell, but I accepted Christ as my Savior really out of fear. I didn't know what heaven was, I didn't know what hell was, but I knew that I didn't want my soul condemned to an eternity in hell. Again, I don't think that I really understood the concept, but I remember after I told my mom that I had accepted Christ as my Savior, she cried, so I felt that it was a good thing. Several years later after that, we moved back to Pueblo and we began attending a different church. And it was at that church that I realized that a relationship with Christ is not done out of fear, it's done out of love. And it was at that church that I really understood the relationship that Christ wants with me, the relationship that fellow Christians have when they come together. And it was there that my understanding of eternity and heaven and hell really grew. And so I accepted Christ as my Savior, fully knowing what I was getting myself into. A few years after being youth group age, the church hired a new youth pastor, and this man really set my life on fire. He was a wonderful example of a Christian man and really started me on a path of thinking that I wanted to get into the ministry as a youth pastor myself. Unfortunately, sometimes, humans have issues, and he ended up leaving the church, and it really shook my faith. Shook it to the point that I didn't want to go to church anymore. And for many, many years, I didn't go. I turned to other things to fill that void in my life: pornography, drugs, alcohol. In 2000, I moved to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and began a relationship with my wife, Nicole. 2002, we were married, and I brought those sins into my marriage. Needless to say, it caused a lot of problems. So many problems that it got to the point that we had divorce papers filled out, ready to turn into the judge. And a wonderful woman named Judy Akana invited my wife to go to Real Life Church, and she went. She went for several weeks without me, and every week would ask me to go. And I was so deep in my anger and my hurt that I didn't want to. And she just kept asking, come to church with me, come to church with me. And I refused until finally I gave in, really just to stop her from nagging me about it. I will never forget that first Sunday, seeing the pastor up on stage talking about his addictions and his problems. And for me, coming from the churches that I came from, that was unheard of. You didn't have pastors speak of real life problems. And so from that moment forward, I was hooked. I knew that real life was a place that I wanted to be. And shortly after attending, I had people come around me that brought my wife and I into discipleship classes. Gus Cuellar and his wife Lynn took my wife into separate studies and really began to show us what a godly couple looked like. Gus showed me what a godly husband is supposed to be, what a godly father is. I had other men come alongside me: Keith Kimbrough, Daryl Palmer, Jason Cogdill, who did Bible studies with me and were accountability partners with me and really stretched me and helped me to grow in my faith. And I think we all know that I would be lying if I said that it was an instant change. I, of course, still struggled with my sins. It is without a doubt that initial invitation and those godly men that came alongside me to build me up single-handedly saved my marriage. I know without a doubt that I would not be sitting here with this ring on my finger without those men to come alongside me, to pray for me, to pray with me. So I want to be that man for somebody that needs it. I want to be there when somebody needs me because I know I am not alone. I know that there are many people in this church that need a brother to come alongside them. So I want to be that man that is there for another brother, to pick them up, to pray with them, to pray for them, to guide them through life's problems. I know the power of a godly man in my life, and I want to be that example to other men and to my sons. I want them to see what a godly man looks like because I didn't have that. I didn't have a godly example until coming here. With God in our lives, we can stand arm to arm, shoulder to shoulder, and we can face life's problems.